Good afternoon. My name is Bob Klett. I'm an assistant chief of the San Marcos Police Department. The San Marcos Police Department has a suspect in custody after a man was found dead in his home at the Villagio Apartments at 1850 Aqaurena Springs Drive. The San Marcos Police Department received a call there this morning about 8 a.m. from a man who said that he had found his roommate dead. Officers arrived at the apartment and found the body of 20-year-old Francisco Sierra, 2'4" of 96, in his bedroom with a gunshot wound to his head. Sierra's roommate, who originally called the police department, was taken to the police department to be interviewed along with several other people who were present in the apartment complex that morning, in the apartment itself that morning. He later confessed to shooting and killing Sierra and throwing away the gun in a body of water in a remote location. We believe we know where that location is right now, and we've secured it for the DPS dive team to go and recover the weapon. The suspect has been charged with a first-degree murder, and we do not believe that there's a continuing threat to the public. We're not able to release his name at this point because although he has been arrested and charged with murder, he has not been magistrated yet, so we're not able to release his name or the arrest affidavit at this point. I would like to also bring to light that we are still actively investigating the death of Justin Gage, who was killed in December of this last year, and ask that the public know that we're still very much needing information on that case as well. That's very actively involved. Yes, ma'am.
When will you be able to release his name?
We suspect that he'll be magistrated in the morning, and at that point, Commander Ernest will get the updated information to Ms. Wyatt, and we'll release an updated press release at that point with the information.
Were any of the friends that were taken in to be interviewed charged with anything?
No, all the friends were just basically witnesses. Two of the people who were at the apartment were Texas State students. The person who's been charged, as well as the deceased, are not Texas State students. The deceased had been a student this last semester, but was not currently enrolled at Texas State this semester.
So it was a group of four that lived in the one apartment?
Yes, sir. 4 people lived in the apartment, and the deceased and the suspect are both roommates in that apartment.
Is the suspect a former Texas State student as well, if he has no relationship to Texas State?
At this point, I don't believe he has any relationship to Texas State, the suspect.
From what you can release, what was their relationship like? Were they good friends? Were they kind of that random college, hey, I moved in with a group of guys?
I'm not sure the nature of their relationship or how long they had been friends. The victim, Mr. Sierra, had moved into the apartment on February 1st, so he was relatively new in that apartment, that specific apartment.
So he ain't been there a week yet?
No, sir.
Did he confess as part of any sort of prearranged deal? Did he just come out and confess?
At this point, I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question, please?
Sure. When he confessed, when he came to you, was it as part of any deal in order to receive lesser charges? Did he put you in presence of a lawyer, or he just came out and confessed during routine questioning?
At this point, I don't want to get too much into the details. He came voluntarily to the police department, as did everybody else in the apartment this morning. And during the questioning, he did confess to the murder.
Did he confess to killing him, or doing it on purpose? Was it like a fight between a gun went off, or he?
I think the specific details of that, we're still looking into trying to tie everything together. We're still very much early in an active investigation, so it'd be really too early to get very specific on that.
Can you tell us generally where the body would be?
The gun?
The body, you said it
Where-
was a body of water, the body of
No, the gun is in a body of water that we believe is somewhere in the city of San Marcos. However, we don't really want to put that out yet because we don't want to obviously have any issues at that location until we get the gun recovered. But we do believe that the gun is not in danger of being found by kids or other people that might have harm from that gun.
So you made the call at 8 o'clock. You'd already gone and disposed of the gun at that point.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
What did the friends say? I mean, were they awakened by the gunshots?
Nobody in the area heard the gunshot, including the roommates.
And what part of the apartment was the body found in?
He was in his bedroom. The deceased was in his bedroom in the apartment complex.
And everybody was home when it happened, correct?
My understanding is yes, everybody was present.
How do two people not hear gunshots? I mean,
You know, sometimes gunshots aren't as loud as one might imagine when you're asleep. The sudden sound is just a very sudden sound, and so, you know, it's just hard to say.
One gunshot?
One gunshot, I believe, yes.
Do you know where in the body?
The gunshot wound was to the head. So, yeah.
We know what time of death or time of the,
We're not exactly sure the time of death yet. We had a previous call there that morning, unrelated, with the victim, and we last saw him about 5:30 this morning, so between 5:30 and 8 o'clock.
did Sierra or the suspect have any past criminal history?
Not that I'm aware of.
What was the nature of you seeing him 5:30?
So we had overnight a welfare concern call on the victim, Mr. Sierra, where he was potentially had concerns for his mental health, his
There at the
safety.
apartment complex?
Yes, ma'am. And it took a while to locate him, but we found him in his apartment and spent some time with him and left him in the custody of a friend who was going to keep him under watch.
Who was it that called in the welfare check? Was it he himself that called for help?
It was a third party who he had called, and that third party had called us to pass on their concerns that we might need to talk with him and check on him.
A relative?
At this point, crisis hotline.
Was the friend that you left him with one of the roommates?
That I do not know. That happened on the midnight shift, and much of this other part of the investigation has happened on the day shift. So I do not know who that friend was that he was left with. That officer had already gone home, and we talked to that officer quite extensively this morning, but I'm not sure the specific nature of that at my level right now.
Was he afraid for his life prior to, or was he having a mental breakdown that was completely separate from the incident after 8 o'clock?
I think this was completely separate from the incident, possibly just concerns over his own safety, his maybe being distraught. Again, the officers were out there. They talked to him, and they left him with a friend. He didn't seem to have any plans on harming himself at that point. So again, this was an unrelated call, but we did clear that call about 5:30 this morning, and then this call came in for his body being found, or the concern for his body being found about 8 o'clock this morning.
So did you initially think suicide could be one of the things, but then when the roommate confessed it, was there like two investigations going on at the same time, possibly because of that prior call, or?
You know, anytime we have a death, we don't want to make an assumption until we look at all the facts. And while we're looking at those facts, it became apparent this was not a suicide.
Do we know whose gun it was?
I'm sorry?
Do we know who owned the gun?
We do not know. I do not know at this point about the gun. With the nature of that is certainly part of the investigation that is still very active that we're still looking into.
And sorry if you've already answered this question, but did the roommate give any type of motive or reason for doing this?
At this point, I don't really want to talk about what the roommate had told us as his motive. He certainly confessed to the murder, and certainly there's a lot more of the investigation that's still very active that we want to check and double check and visit with him some more on as well.
That apartment complex right next to like a worship center and a daycare. Was there any concern this morning as you were clearing the scene that you could potentially have kids coming to that area?
There is a church that has a school in it in the area, but again, at that point this morning we were there. There was none of that concern. No, there was no concern with that.
Do you have any updated Justin Gage case?
We don't have any updates we can release right now, except for we are still very much actively investigating it. We're still talking to various people all the time. There's still tips coming in that we still surf through. There's some other ideas we have investigatively that we've been trying to lead down. So very much want to mention how much Mr. Gage is in our minds and very much a part of our active investigation still. Unfortunately, not all cases are cleared as fast as the one we have today. This one with Mr. Gage is one that's taking quite a bit of resources, and certainly we're looking for a lot more help from the community, from people who might know something to come forward and call us, or call Hays County Crime Stoppers and give us a tip.
What's the relationship between these off-campus apartments and Texas State? Obviously, Texas State does not have enough housing for all the students. So are these sanctioned by the university, or these private complexes cater to students?
Yeah, this is a private complex that caters to students and I guess other residents, but there's no affiliation that I'm aware of with Texas State. So it is common student housing in that area, though.
Is there more you could tell us just about the victim, who he was, where he's from, that sort of thing?
I believe he's from the Mesquite area, but at this point, that's about all the details I have on him. We've notified next of kin. However, there's still lots of discussions we'd like to have with them before we talk too much more about him, out of respect for the family. Certainly, it's quite a shock for them. And, anytime we have to deliver news like that, it's a very sad thing for everybody involved.
And can you tell us more about the search for the weapon? Obviously, that's a key piece of evidence that you need.
We believe we understand which body of water that it's in. It's a relatively contained area. He has taken us to that area and pointed in the general area where it is, and now we're waiting on assistance from the DPS dive team to go in and search that area and find that gun.
Was it in the river somewhere?
It's in a body of water. I don't want to get too much more than that right now. Coincidentally, we understand the DPS dive team was in town earlier today for training. That is completely unrelated to anything with the search that we have going on for the weapon right now, though.
You had a suspect who admits to killing the roommate, takes the time to hide the gun, and then comes in voluntarily and admits. What's the frame of mind that he seems to be doing two things, we're trying to conceal evidence, and then admitting to the crime, which you're trying to conceal?
At this point, I wouldn't even want to try to speculate on what his frame of mind was. I have not spoken with him personally. This is a very active case ongoing, and the detectives are going in many different directions, trying to confirm facts, find the weapon, all these different kind of things. So I wouldn't want to try to speculate what his mindset was or what his plans were for coming in. He did present as a cooperative person and came in and interviewed, and during that interview confessed to the murder.
How unusual is that? A case in general, not even a specific case, but for something like that to take place for you guys?
In general, homicides are very unusual in the city of San Marcos. The ones that we've seen recently have been what we believe to be drug deals outside of one last year, which was something completely different. But these were more pointed cases. This one, as it happened, is very unusual for San Marcos, but very proud of our criminal investigation staff, our patrol staff, communications, who worked together very well to get a quick resolution to this case. Even though we have a resolution, even though we have an arrest, it's still not a closed case. We still have lots of questions that we want to answer for ourselves and answer for the family of Mr. Sierra.
Is the DPS, or not DPS dive team, but is the dive team a Hays County dive team or San Marcos PD dive team?
It's the Department of Public Safety dive team, Texas Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
We've called them in to assist.
And how many other roommates were there at the time?
I believe there are 3 other roommates and maybe a visitor, but that is a specific detail might change based on my understanding of the case.
Including the roommate who confessed, or, so
That-
how many
he-
people?
He's included in that. 3 people came in. 3 people came in today that were there, and one visitor.
Okay. And one visitor that was in the residence?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was the day after his birthday.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, what kind of significance are you drawing to that?
I don't know how much significance I would draw to that. There was alcohol in the apartment overnight, probably from a birthday party, so alcohol may have had some influence. We don't have any hint that drugs or other factors might have been an influence, so it's just, it's a factor, and it's one of the tragic factors of this death is that this was the night of after his birthday that this happened, or the morning after his birthday.
I'm sorry, I missed it, just the proper spelling of your first
Sure.
last name, I believe, title.
My name is Bob, B-O-B, Klett, K-L-E-T-T, and I'm an assistant chief here at the San Marcos Police Department. If there's no other questions, we will probably have a updated press release out tomorrow morning after he's been magistrated with the suspect's name and the affidavit, pictures of him. But keep in mind, even with that affidavit, this is still very much an ongoing investigation, and there's still lots more stuff that we believe we have to look at besides just having this arrest in place. Thank you all very much for being here today. I appreciate your time.